Okay, now let's look at this for a minute. I've got that trim all back on there. And now my next thing is going to be to put this knuckle on. And you've got to make sure you read your directions because not all these are created equal. This one's got a little pin with a cotter pin on there. That's going to end up, after I screw this in, there's an exact hole that I've got to line it up, and which means the last thing you want to do is lose that in your carpet. I almost did that the last one I installed because it was kind of like shag carpet. Okay, and that's going to screw down in there. But before I do that, I'm going to end up taking this off. Okay, and there's a little set screw on the side, and that set screw just tightens this plastic knuckle, I call it, onto this. And see, there's a sliding pin there, which you slide it down, and that needs to be flush, and that pin's in there to keep it, and then you would tighten this up. And that's the only thing that keeps this knuckle, tight to here. And I wish they would do it differently. I wish they would actually take this screw and have it go right in onto threads into the metal of the rod. And I've only seen one. I've installed, I don't know, 25 ceiling fans or more. I've only seen one that has a set screw that goes through the metal. Because what happens is over time, I mean, you can only tighten this screw up so tight from this plastic on, and then it just sinks up. It just wedges tight onto there, and that's it. There's just a little mark on the actual rod, extension rod, see? And that's the only place where that screw's going to hit. Now if that later on gets loose, guess what? Your ceiling fan starts wobbling. And that's a lot of times why your ceiling fan wobbles, because that set screw, this set screw right here is loose. And then this thing goes out of whack and starts chattering and starts wobbling, especially if you have an extension rod taller than this and all that. Okay, I show you that on all kinds of different videos. Okay, so now all I have is the rod. Okay, so I'm gonna put that up there, and this one has threads. You get some and there's no threads at all, and all you have is the rod, you know, this one with the cotter pin that holds it, and then you've got some side screws that tighten it up, and then you want to make sure the rod is going straight up and down. This one is slightly different. Okay, so I'm gonna see, I'm threading it on there right now. I don't have to thread it so it's tight. I just have to thread it far enough so that this goes through the hole. Does that make sense? Because if I go down too tight, it's going to go beyond the hole, right? So I'm going to have to get over. I'm going to have to get over here and take a look at it. See, I can see. It's right there. Right there. Let's see if I can tighten it up one more go, and have it come out. Okay, and if I can get it through, maybe I'll put it there. See, I got it all the way through. Now, if I can do it one more, maybe I'll do it one more. Make sure these side screws, we'll tighten up later, but if they stick out any bit in, they could hit your rod. Okay? And see, I think they were. In fact, I'm just going to take those two little ones out. But there's only so far I can tighten this up and still get the pin through. You know what I mean? See right there, it's still not tight, but I can't put the pin in because the rod's down too far. Okay, so I can loosen that up, the pin will go through. And sometimes you just have to fish it through because you're fishing it through that wire harness that goes up. See now, there, okay, like that. And I take the little cotter pin and put it in. Do I have to face it up or down? I don't think it matters because it just spins, see? Okay, and then these little side deals get put in. Where'd they go? Here's one there. And it has a little nut on it. So the idea is you keep the nut all the way up, I guess, and that kind of clamps down on the rod, and you want to try to get those about the same so the rod isn't going up at an angle. Now, mind you, it can only go so much at an angle because the threads in here are holding it, but if you have one that you don't have the threads, you got to hold it up there and kind of eyeball it straight before you tighten up these sides, because you don't want to get it so that this rod is coming up at a slight angle, because when you hang your ceiling fan, then when it hangs down, you might look and tilt your head and think, yeah, I think it's crooked. How come it's crooked? Well, it's because this rod might not be going straight up. Okay, so you know, you can kind of eyeball what's going on with that. Okay. And those screws are only going to go in so tight, right? Then they give you, there's this little nut here that you can take and you can clamp it down. Now I see right now this screw has more thread sticking out than this side. Okay, so technically that tells me, well, it's about the same. It tells me I could tighten this one up a little bit. In order to do that, I have to loosen that one so that I can tighten this. Okay, and we're just, all that's doing is the threads of these two screws are pushed against just the threads of this riser. Okay, now these side nuts, I got to get my little crescent wrench out. And I first have to, I just want to double check something. I'm not sure if I had that tight all the way before I tighten this down, and the threads to the nut was keeping me from going any tighter, but I'm okay. Okay, that's why you want those out of the way and get these as snug as you can. Okay, now I can take that nut and go down right there and just snug it up. That's going to kind of prevent your screw from getting loose. You see what I mean? Okay, like that. Don't overdo it. Just do it snug. Okay. You do it too tight, you could spin the nut. You could start stripping the threads, whatever. Okay, so far so good. That's attached, and it came with two housing pieces. Remember, this is the trim that fits up next to the ceiling. And this is the one that covers this all up. Now that I've got this all attached, I got the cotter pin in there, I got that in there, I got that tight. I haven't even messed with the knuckle yet, right? We're not doing anything with the knuckle just yet. We gotta put this other on. And see, I could cut this wire shorter now if I wanted, but I'm gonna make a determination after I get this on. See, that is gonna fit down like that. And then this next one, and if you have questions, you read the directions, you know, of which I did. Okay, now that one's going to be like that. Okay, now I can put this back on there. And remember, I had a little mark right there where the set screw goes. Okay, and this has to fit flush. And I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. That's gonna fit like that. Okay. And then this pin, there's a hole in here, see? And you let it stick out, and then you swivel this around and you'll see where this goes, and it will fit up in there. If you have it and it only is going up so far and you think, well, I guess that's okay, and you set that, no, that's not okay. It needs to slip in. There's a little groove on both sides, okay? And now I'm going to try to put it right where that little mark is. And if there's no mark, could you slide this over a little bit, or could you flip this around and have the screw over on this side? Yeah, you could. And that, believe it or not, is the only thing that holds that knuckle. And that screw has an area for a regular screwdriver or a Phillips. I first do it with the Phillips. Now I can take my standard slotted screwdriver and make it just a hair tighter. You'd be surprised how much tighter you can get that screw than with your Phillips screwdriver. Okay? And again, there's only so tight you can do that. Because if you go any tighter than that, you could strip the screws right out of the knuckle, and the knuckle is plastic. You know, they really should have another way. And like I say, they could put another screw exactly like that over on this side with the threaded have the threaded hole go right through this metal, and just screw that screw right in through the metal on both sides. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter. Those screws are not going to hurt anything. They're not going to be hitting the wire or anything. Do you see what I mean? I just don't understand why they don't, because trust me, 5 years from now or less, I'm going to come in here and the ceiling fan could be wobbling, and it might be because of that. Then I'm going to have to lower that down and reach up in there and try to lift that up and try to get that tight right up against the ceiling, you know, below the ceiling a little bit, because the ceiling's going to be up here. This knuckle's going to fit down in there. Do you see what I mean? This knuckle is going to fit in there. And I'll show you that. Our next step is we're going to install this to the ceiling. Okay? So that's as far as I'm going to go. Now, on this wire, if you will recall, is set up in case you have it set for a long extension pole. Okay? That's why they give you that extra long wire. And it's got little things on here. See, on the blue, it's got a little tag, and it says "for light." Okay, and when I cut all this off, you're not going to see that anymore. But the little this little sensor, it has the marks on here too. For the blue one, it says, well, it's got it in a different language, okay? But you'll be blue to blue, black to black, white to white, where it's coming out off of the side. This black and white is going up to the power in your, up there at your fixture up at the ceiling, okay? These are the only two wires that are going to get hooked there. Then your ground wire, and then your other ground wire, and those are going to be attached to the ground wire that's up there. I'll show you all that. You want to hang around and see how the rest of this goes. I'll show you. Okay, so that means I'm going to have to raise that and lift that whole ceiling fan up with the ceiling fan blades on. And like I said, most ceiling fans I've ever installed, I didn't have to do that. I would just lift the base up, so I'd only be lifting this and the base, and then it's easier. It's going to be slightly awkward to do that off the ladder, but I'll get it. So now the next thing I'm going to do is hook up this, I call this a housing mounting bracket, okay? That's going to be installed up there. But before I get that up there, I need to look at the existing wires that come down. And if you were with me last time, you would have seen that I installed this pancake box right up to the bottom of a TJI floor joist. And I showed you all that. You can watch that on my YouTube channel. It's under electrical or ceiling fans galore or something on my main YouTube channel page. Click on playlist, scroll down to ceiling fans or electrical, okay? And so remember, I've got this wire. I'm going to have to strip the wire back, and it gave me a ground screw. So what I'm going to do, you remember, I've got two ground wires coming up from the actual ceiling fan. One on the ceiling fan housing and one on the knuckle of the ceiling fan. So those two ground wires have to be hooked up too. How are we going to hook all three of those to this ground screw? No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to strip this wire. I'm going to take the ground wire and I'm going to run it across here, and I'm just going to do one loop around this ground screw, and then I'm going to tighten that ground screw so that the ground wire is attached to the metal box, and then I'm still going to have the pigtail coming down of the rest of the ground wire. Do you see what I mean? And then I'll take a wire nut and hook those two ground wires to this ground wire. You see what I mean? So I'm going to get this, I need to do that first. I like to do that first, and then I'll have the three wires hanging down before I install this bracket. Can you see if I install the bracket first, then it's kind of tricky to do exactly what I want to do with this box. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to strip that, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. Okay, let's get you back up there. I can show you what I did. Okay, I stripped the wire back and I loosened that ground screw up. I wrapped this around a couple times and tightened that screw up. Now this ground wire is attached to the metal box, and I still have a pigtail to hook up. Could I have ran this wire down a little bit further? But you know, at the first, yeah, I probably could have, because I installed this new wire. But I thought that was enough. But see, because I had to run here and wrap it around, my pigtail isn't as long as everything else, right? But I think it's going to be long enough to attach those others. If not, I got that loop-de-loop twice. I could undo one loop and still tighten it up. Now, does that ground wire really have to be attached to a metal box? I mean, what if that was a plastic box or something like that, you know, one designed, a heavy duty one designed for a ceiling fan, let's say. I think they have them. Then you would just attach all the ground wires together. Not all boxes are metal, you know. And Okay, so that's how that's going to happen. And I was getting ready to install this, but dabbity nabbit, I think I forgot one very important thing, because the mounting, the housing trim, well, before I install this onto this bracket, I can install it on that bracket, but before I mount this, I believe I have to put this on. This is my trim, and I'm gonna have to look at the directions, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to look at that, and I think there's some little screws somewhere, because this is the little housing thing that goes up to hold this up there, and obviously I can't hold that up there if it's not on, right? So my bad for not realizing that. So now, of course, I've got to take the knuckle off, but you know how to do that now, right? I got to take the knuckle off so I can lift this up, so I can slip that down first, you know, and get that all set, because that is actually going to attach onto here. And I think, oh, there's the mounting screws right there. Now I'll show you that, because see, there's two parts. There's two parts to this little trim. I'll open that and I'll show you that real quick. Now remember I said all fans are not created equal? Well, sometimes they have two parts to this. One you screw up first, and then there's nibs on it, and then you take this little trim and it slides onto that. Well, this is a one-piece trim. So when this gets installed up on the ceiling, there's two screws on the top here. All that is for is to hold this on here. So I'd have to back those screws out a little bit in order to get up where these slides are on both sides here. See right there. And then once I find that, fish around for that, lift it up there, and then twist it on. And then that is going to go over the screw head on here. Okay. Some people do it differently, where they've got the screw and you tighten it down. It's got a little nib, a knuckle head on there that has no threads, and then it sticks up exactly the right amount. This one doesn't do that because these are flush. Okay, but I would just unscrew these. I would unscrew these just a little bit, and like I say, they could have done that. They could have done that exactly how you wanted it, but see, they're letting you adjust it in case you have to slightly adjust it for who knows what reason. And that all that screw is for, it doesn't hold anything together there. You just loosen it up a little bit to then get it over that head, and you put it on there, you fish for that, and then you tighten that down, and all you're doing is twisting it on there, and then you don't tighten it. And so next time you get ready to take it down, you have to do it the same way. Okay, so that's why this has to go on. That has to go on before that. Dabbity nabbit. One step further, if you can imagine, see this here, it's got a little slot. It's got a little slot right there. This side doesn't. Okay? So what you have to do is you take both the, well, you take one screw out. You only have to take one screw out. Don't take both screws out. Take one screw out. Then you can put this in, loosen it up, put it over the head, and get it tight. And once you slide that to where it goes on that one, then you should be able to just put the other one straight up into here. Okay? And it might have the knuckle. It might have the knuckle on here. I just have to see. I think it might. Oh yeah, it does. It does have the nut. It does have the little nib, like I was telling you. Okay, the threads only go up to there. Well, it's kind of hard to show you in here, but then there's a little bit of no threads. So once you tighten it down to here, you can only go down so tight, and then it leaves enough of that popped up from there to where you get that trim on there, fish it in there, hold your mouth just right, and then tighten it down. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so that's kind of how that works. Okay, I can leave those set screws in there for the time being. No, actually I think I'm going to take them out, because once I get it up there, then it's going to be hard to reach in there and get those two screws out. You see? Let's see. Maybe I'm not sure now. Okay, I'm going to loosen them up for now. Okay? Cuz as I remember, it's kind of tricky to do it because there's not much room right here, you know, to get it. Let's see. I'm thinking out loud now. See, you leave that one, slide it over, and then take the other one out. So I only have to take one out. Okay? I'm only going to take one out. And I'm going to leave the other one up. Leave one in there. Okay, so once I have it up there, this is going to be mounted over where the knuckle is, and then I can just line that up after I wire that and stuff. Okay, I'm just thinking out loud here. Okay, so I've got to put this knuckle thing back on, and see, I got that little trim piece on there. Man, you're getting the full Monty now. Now I put that on there like that. See? Now, now I put the knuckle, I call it. I don't know what else you call it. What else would you call this top thing? That's just what I call it. Okay, I'm going to put that on there. I'm just going to slide that down. Let's see where okay, see this thing has those two notches, one there and one there for this pin. And so if I wanted to slide it around, it could go on this side, you know, and then this screw is over here, but because it had that little set mark over there, I'm going to do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to refish that through there, let it stick out a little bit on both sides, and it fits right in between there. And I tighten this back up, looking to see where that little mark is. Okay, take my standard screwdriver. I could just get it just a hair tighter. Okay, and that's it. You see there? Okay, that's all ready to go. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to the ceiling and mount this. Okay.